Yeah, hello.
For the farmers in my constituency in Bishop Auckland, which is a Labour farming community. And the farmers in my area are worried. And they're people who put their trust in us at the general election. And why did they do so? Well, they did so because they'd been so badly let down for 14 years before. They did so because they knew that there was more that could have been done by the previous government on things like trade deals, supply chains, flood defences and on crime. So let me tell you what farmers in my constituency are telling me about this issue. They say, as has been said already, that they have no problem with the principle that we should be closing tax loopholes. They want to stop billionaires, to quote the Telegraph, from hoovering up agricultural land, which they know is pushing up land prices. And they even support the principle, Minister, of paying tax and raising revenue for a Treasury, because they know that Treasury revenue is necessary to improve the NHS and to improve schools in their communities, as well as a strong agricultural budget. But they are asking, and they're not asking, by the way, for a full U-turn, but they are asking for some meaningful tweaks that will help the policy to better target the goals that it intends to achieve.
Will my honourable friend give way?
I will give way.
Thank you, honourable friend. We've heard quite a few suggestions already today for ways that this policy could be tweaked, could be amended. Would he join me in urging the Minister to get Treasury officials to at least model some of these changes to help advance this debate in the coming months?
Thank you. I welcome that intervention. And there are two areas in particular that I think farmers in my constituency would like some answers. And one of them is around thresholds. You see, because the policy still keeps 50% agricultural property relief, it doesn't actually close a tax loophole at all for the very wealthiest. And they'd like to see the modelling from the Treasury that says that it would. Meanwhile, because the threshold is quite low, it does mean, sadly, that some of the family farms in my constituency will really struggle to pay that inheritance tax bill. So they would like to see what modelling has been done around the thresholds, because they understand that, and again, they're not asking for you to, they understand that this should be neutral to the Treasury, but they would be interested to know if we could lift the threshold but go to 40% tax at another threshold, whether that wouldn't both better protect the small family farms while at the same time doing a better job at closing the tax loophole. And on another point where they would welcome some consideration is this proposal of a clawback. Because, you see, if you inherit a £5 million farm, you're not a millionaire. You're the custodian of agricultural land with the responsibility to farm it to produce food for the nation. If you sell a £5 million farm, you become a millionaire. But you're not simply by inheriting one. So they would also be interested to look at that. And I think it would be helpful for the farmers in my constituency to understand the modelling the Treasuries have done. And finally, just to say, there is amongst that community, a Labour farming community, goodwill for this government on many of the things that we are trying to achieve. And that goodwill can be retained. And I think there would be no shame in looking at this again.
That's a very thoughtful contribution, and he's clearly looking at ways in which this can be amended in order to make it more palatable to the farming community. That may be the reality that we're looking at, rather than getting rid of it altogether. Therefore, would he not also agree that we should be looking at changing the transitional arrangements in order that succession planning could be properly undertaken, because that clearly can't, or indeed leaseback arrangements to enable viable farms to continue?
Well, I think there's a variety of things that could be looked at, and I've met with the NFU this morning and we discussed various points, but I feel that these are all things that should be considered. And I just want to close by reiterating that I believe that the community that I represent still has goodwill towards this government and the intentions of this government, but I do think that there are aspects of the policy that could be tweaked to better achieve its intentions.